Hi everyone, this is Kim Hooson with Girl Scouts of Silver Sage, and I have another just-in-time training for you all today. This one is on the Financial Transactions tab in Smart Cookies and what you'll do with it and how you can use it to track not only your troop and your girl sales, but do some other things with it as well. First, we're going to view the troop transactions. So we are going to log in at abcsmartcookies.com. And we are going to go into the Finance tab and in the Financial Transactions dropdown. That should be the only dropdown that is available for you in this tab. Then when we see the main page here, notice it says to manage financial transactions page. You've got troop transactions and you have girl transactions. So depending on if you need to see a transaction for a specific girl or if you need to see anything for the troop, you can see those different things. So on here, you'll see a few different things. You'll have your transaction numbers. We don't use districts, so that's not information we'll need to see. Service units, troops, and then what kind of payment it is. It says bank here. If we do a ACH transaction to or from your troop, that will show up here. And I don't know why it's titled bank. It just is. You will have what kind of transaction it is, the date, the type, whether it was a deposit or credit. Now, when you're looking at this, when it says deposit and credit, it does not necessarily mean that that was deposited into your account or it was credited to your account. It's just the terminology that the system uses for those transactions. And they are used in an accounting manner. So it is not necessarily the same way you would think of a deposit being deposited into your bank account. They're just no, deposit is right. And it is an accounting term. So sometimes you might see on their ACH credit or debit, in which case those are meaning that they are credits and debits coming from the council account, not necessarily to your troops account as a credit or debit, but from the council account. So it might look a little weird. It might be a little confusing if you're trying to like differentiate the terminologies, but they are listed correctly. I don't think I've seen an instance where that was listed. I don't think I've seen an instance where that was listed incorrectly. So those should always in there should. So those should be listed correctly. Then you'll see the amount that the transaction was for and the reference number. So the reference number is sometimes just a code that we're going to use. If you have to look up a transaction based on its order number, that's going to be in the transaction number column. So there's a couple of different codes on here, which I think we're going to cover on a different slide. So I'll explain what those are. But this reference number, should you need to look up an order number or if a customer says, hey, I want to make sure my payment went through, here's my order number, that's where you can put it in into the search bar up here to find that order number. That is also what Digital Cookie will call your order numbers. So credit card transactions will be shown here and they will display for both girls and troops. Selecting the information icon over here will display more details about a transaction. So then when a credit card is successfully processed on a girl delivery order, a financial transaction is created for both the troop and for the girl. When a credit card payment is successfully processed for a direct ship order, a financial, excuse me, when a credit card payment is successfully processed for a direct ship order, a financial transaction is created for the girl. She receives credit for the order. A transaction is created for just the troop, but the girl gets credit for the order. When a credit card payment is processed for a booth sale, whether it is a virtual booth or a physical booth, a financial transaction is created just for the troop. And then a troop transaction will start with, or will contain the letter T. So this one says BT and then we have CT. So the T indicates that it is a troop transaction. And I'm thinking here, B stands for booth, C stands for credit card. And then let's see, so B stands for booth, C stands for credit card. You might see some that have S, and that is a shipped only transaction. A transaction that was generated from the Troop Direct Ship only link is going to begin with the letters TDS. So that's going to be a completely different transaction on here. If this is a transaction from the girl level, that second letter is not going to be a T, it's going to be a G for girl. Just so that it separates easily visually. So it's an easy visual separation of whether it's a trip transaction or a girl transaction. So now, oh, I don't know if that's still there. Okay, this might be an old image of the slide, but if this is still there, down at the bottom here, it does say to review all troop balances, refer to the following report, the Troop Balance Summary Report. That report is fantastic, and it does give you a very easy to read snapshot of your troops balances. There's also one called the Girl Balance Report, which also is covered in a later slide, that does the same thing, but for each girl's balance. And you can filter that by girl. You just have to make sure you enter her name exactly as it is written in Smart Cookies in order to get that report to generate for just one girl. Okay. So for the girl card transactions, we've got the credit card details. So here in this first column, the transaction number, you'll see that that is a CG. So it's a credit card by girl. And then you'll have the order numbers from Digital Cookie. If the order number from Digital Cookie is not in this transaction number, it will be here in the reference column at the very at the other farther end. So each one of these will be attached to a specific girl who took that payment. And you can use those search and filters up at the top again. Like in here, you use the little filter funnels or the little magnifying glasses to search for a specific type of transaction or a specific girl. So, and then we have what the amounts are and how that transaction came through. So viewing and adding transactions. So when we're in that girl transaction section, down towards the bottom, there is a add girl transaction button. We're going to click on that. And then this part here comes up. Okay. And then this part here comes up. So we can put in which girl, the type of transaction it is. So this is going to be payment, payment method, whether it is a check or cash, or if maybe she accidentally took a payment on the troop page and you need to now credit her with a payment from the troop, you should be able to have an option here that says like booth payment or something like that. So you can swap that in there. Then you can also add notes, but you'll also want to add your transaction date, your amount. You can put a reference number in there. So maybe like for this girl, it's her third deposit. So deposit number 3. And then you can put in those notes. I do recommend if you are accepting a check, to put as many notes in here as you can. Whether that is the check number, and if you're doing multiple checks, list out those numbers. That's important to make sure that because you're only going to have a total. So you could say check 456 for $20, check 123 for $10, or whatever your amounts end up being. Definitely list out those numbers. I also recommend sticking a name with that if you have enough characters in your notes. You could also put all that information in a separate spreadsheet. If you are tracking it through the cookie workbook or anything like that, just making sure that you have all those details in case something were to happen and maybe one of those checks bounces, you know what girl to go back to, what customer she can go back to, in order to try to get that check to go through again, or find out if you can have the bank reprocess it. Then once you're done entering all of those details, click the save button. Once that save button is hit, it'll look down here at the bottom. And so now we have her transaction number, And then it's for our girl here, Mona, the date that it was check, that it was this amount, and our reference number that we put in to our column. Okay. And then at the bottom of the girl page, it will also mention about reviewing balances. You can refer to the girl balance summary report. It is in a different color on the current smart cookies. Like I said, this is an old screen grab, but the content is still correct. And then on your Troop dashboard, so leaving the financial transactions tab on that main dashboard that you see. So here I have my smart cookies. So flipping back to the dashboard, very important thing here is when we're going to scroll down to the bottom to look at the girl grid. But this little button here, this button here with the little two arrows that are circling each other, that is your refresh button for your dashboard. So it's important that like this one has not been refreshed since the 10th. So we want to make sure that we'll do a refresh before we go down to see our information because it may not transfer right away. Might take a few minutes. So then scrolling down, you'll see a bunch of different summaries here, and this is the girl grid down at the bottom. So we have a couple of different things. It defaults to sold by channel. So it'll tell you in what method she sold cookies, whether it was a booth or cookie share or her initial order. And then you have sold by cookies. So if you wanted to see a breakdown of what variety of cookies girls sold, you can click on the sold by cookie section. But for this one, we're focused on that girl financial responsibility section. So this gives you a very quick snapshot of how much girls have, how many cookies they've taken out, how many cookies you've transferred them in a Troop to Girl transfer, how much money she has collected via cookie share, the total amount of money that she owes for her cookies, the amount that you have collected from her. So this would be in any of those credit card payments or any of those cash or check or anything like that you are putting in as a financial transaction that has transferred to her. And then you have her balance due. Now, if this balance due is a positive number, that is how much she still owes the troop. So this is a tester site. These are fictional girls. These are just random numbers that were thrown in there for demonstration purposes. So these are the amounts that these girls owe. If that balance due number is a negative number, this one's very important. So if it's a negative number, this girl's collected more money for cookies than she has been credited with a Troop to Girl transfer for cookies. So if this is a negative 186, that means that this girl has sold $186 of cookies from Digital Cookie, and she has not either received those cookies, her Troop to Girl transfer has not been put in, but she has not gotten credit for those cookies. If you're struggling with trying to figure out what that negative balance is, work with your service unit cookie managers. They're very good at figuring these things out. You can come to any of our open office hours or send an email to customer care, and we can see if we can help try to do that little bit of digging, figure out where that negative balance is coming from. Most likely, you will need to refer back to the video on your manage orders, and it goes through how to find those cookie orders from Digital Cookie and how to apply them to your Girl Scouts. So another thing here at the bottom is it does do a snapshot of your troop. So the very bottom here, this will be a troop snapshot of your initial order, how many, how much money, the transfers and things like that. So down here at the bottom will be a troop snapshot. Okay. So some of those reports, we've talked about these reports. So we've got the troop balance summary and the girl balance summary. These are your most relevant financial reports. So your troop balance summary, you can either look at in cases and packages or packages. Both of these pull up really nicely in a PDF. The Excel takes a little bit of moving stuff around, but they can also be utilized in Excel. I prefer them in Excel, but the Excel is my thing. So we'll want to make sure that so when we look at that troop balance report, You probably just need to change your unit of measure, what kind of way you want to view it, and then pull your report. For that girl balance summary, all of your council and your troop information will be filled in for you. If you want to type in a girl name, you can. However, it does, again, need to be exactly as Smart Cookies has it. So if you misspell her name, it will not show up. It'll give you an error saying that there is no data to pull. You can pull it with just the first name, but if you have multiple Taylors, you might end up with more than one girl's report. However, if you just leave girl's name blank, it will pull every single girl in your troop. So frequently, if you are, just pulling everybody's data, you can leave that blank. And then again, select your view of PDF or HTML or Excel. And if you do not see the choice for unit of measure, this will default to packages. Okay, so thank you for this. I did. Okay. And before I get to my last slide here, I did want to pull up my smart cookies, and also mention to enter your account information for your ACH, because we will do an ACH regardless of whether your information is in there, but to enter it yourself to make sure that we have the correct information. Maybe you had a transaction that didn't work right last year, so you want to make sure that that's in there. You'll go into my troop information, and then you will have that option to enter your bank account and routing number. Okay. Last thing I wanted to mention about financial transactions, in regards to your troop accounts, is that all of these credit card transactions that are collected by Digital Cookie, they are not actually going to go into your troop's bank account. They go into essentially a council pot, and we credit you with those transactions through Smart Cookies. So that way we only have to do 1 or 2 ACH transfers with your actual bank account. Otherwise, that would be a lot of money flowing in and out for reasons that may not make sense. As if you have a customer who tries to fight a credit card charge or anything like that, we don't want you to end up with a bunch of different fees because transactions are going. Maybe your bank only allows you a certain number of transactions. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen and you guys don't get like fined or fees or anything like that for transactions. So we take care of all of that. It goes into a council account with Digital Cookie, and we credit you for those. So that's when you'll see in your smart cookies, you've got all of these different credit card transactions that have come through, but they're not actually going to show up in your troop bank account. The only thing that needs to go into your troop bank account is any cash and checks that you've collected from girls, if you allow checks. I do know some troops that do not, so that is up to you as the troop. So any payments that girls have provided you for cookies, those need to go into your troop bank account. Any cash that you collect at your booths will need to go into your troop bank account. And so then at the end, let me see if I can get back to one of those screens with that financial summary. Nope. Okay, so at the end, what you're going to end up seeing is in this financial summary section. It's about halfway down on your dashboard here, depending on how many girls you've got. So this financial summary section, what you'll end up with for those ACH payments is, so this particular troop, these are the Juliets. So they have a balance due. That means, and it's negative, which means that council is going to owe them money at the end because they collected more money in credit cards than they did in other methods. So there won't be enough money in their troop bank account to pull, so we will end up owing them money. And then, so that final ACH, that will be your balance due. So what should be in your troop bank account is the total of your troop proceeds plus all of the cash that you've collected at your booths or from your girls or anything like that. The majority of the time for that final ACH, for the majority of troops, your troop proceeds will come from cash that you have collected at your booths or from your girls and families. It will not actually be transferred from council. But when we do that final ACH, we do take that into account, and we do not pull your troop proceeds. That stays in your account. We will only pull the remainder. So we total all of that up, everything that you've taken out for cookies, and we subtract any of those deposits, or so we subtract any of those deposits amounts. So if there was a first ACH, that will be subtracted. Any of your credit card payments that have gone through will be subtracted, and you will just owe for the difference between that amount that's been collected already and your troop proceeds. And that middle value is what we will end up taking that ACH. I think that's how that maths out. So, don't quote me on it yet. It is in the troop guide. There's an explanation. And then there will be more of these just-in-time videos coming up to explain all of that. But this is how you enter all those transactions. So thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us through customer care. Thank you.